the Super Divorce YouTube channel. Nicholas Villars here, aka Super Divorce, and what we've got right here, this is, seems like it's zoomed in. Not trying to do that, but okay. Well, what I've got here is the Atari Age magazine. Volume 1, number 1, from May/June of 1982. This is the cover you're seeing here. Let me, okay, all right, we're zoomed out all the way. For some reason, it seems like it's zoomed in, and I don't know why it's doing that, but here we are. I recently procured, secured, obtained every issue of Atari Age, and I thought it would be fun to go ahead and just flip through them and check out what's going on live on the internet, live on YouTube. Check on the Atari Age and see what's happening with it. I was not concerned with the condition of the book. As you can see, if you're a big collector concerned with grading and things of that nature, that you would probably be retching and dry heaving and possibly convulsing at the condition of this book, but I was not concerned with that in the slightest. I just wanted to have these magazines in my collection. That's all. I wanted to go through them. I wanted to look through them. I wanted to peruse them. And that's what we're doing here tonight, is perusing this very first inaugural issue of Atari Age. And you can see it's got a nice, beautiful, even though it's dinged up, I still think this is a beautiful piece of memorabilia we've got right here. I'm going to try to hold it at an angle to reduce the glare coming from me chandelier right up there. I'm going to try and make sure that that doesn't ruin the whole video. But if it does, then, So, this came from the Atari Club originally. And the person who it went out to has peeled off the shipping label so that we don't dox them, though I can't imagine the original owners of this magazine probably give a shit. Probably no longer living at the original address that this was sent out to, but in any event, it's worth mentioning, maybe. Got our bulk rate U.S. postage paid right there, that little icon with the Atari Club listed right there. And there's a screen scramble mini game, a bit of a word search back here. A screen scramble. Usually, you'll only find one Atari game at a time on your TV set. On the screen above, though, we've hidden 29 different Atari game program names in word search puzzle style. Across, backwards, up, down, and diagonally. We've circled combat for you as an example. See, they've done it for you. And this one is diagonally backwards. One of the trickiest words that words can be listed in a word search. Now, finally, 28 names. The cartridge checklist on page 15 lists all the possibilities. And when you've circled all 29 names, read the unused letters across from left to right to receive a special hidden message about new cartridge releases later this year. Answers in the next issue of Atari Age. And I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that right now because I don't want to mark up the book, for one thing. Even though I said I don't really care about the creases and the folds and the dings and the dongs, but it's as beat up as I want it to be. Let me say that. And I think it's fine, just like this. If anyone out there wants to hit pause on the video, you can print this out. You can go ahead and pause the video. You can take a screen capture. I'm giving you permission to do that. You have to ask for my permission, of course, but I'm giving it to you now, just like with every YouTube video out there. If you ever want to take a screenshot or screen grab, some people call them photograph. If you ever want to take your family camera, disposable Kodak camera, and take a snapshot of the screen, make sure that you reach out to not just the YouTuber, but YouTube proper, because you have to ask for permission before you take any screenshots on YouTube. You have to get permission from the boss of YouTube. Just I'm giving you permission preemptively because I have been gifted the leeway to do so by unknown sources that I can't talk about. But just know it's okay if you want to take a screenshot of this and print it out for yourself, and then maybe pass them out to your friends and your family so that they can try to find all of the games listed on the screen. What I will not give you permission to do, though, is to take a picture of the cartridge checklist. So you're going to have to figure these out on your own. You do not have my permission to take a photograph or a screen grab of the checklist that we will flip by here. I'll show it to you briefly, but I'm going to breeze past it very quickly so that no one breaks the rules. That's the thing about this rule on YouTube, is that typically it's very hard to prove in court that someone took a snapshot or a screen grab of your stream or your video without asking. That's been very tough for YouTubers to prove in court. So I'm going to flip through the book and go by that quickly so that no one with dishonest intentions grabs that photograph. I want this to be more challenging for you. And anyway, Atari Age. On the front cover, we've got some soccer. We've got some outlaw. Hey, Jess. How are you? It's not totally lonely anymore. My wife has joined the stream, and sometimes that's the way it goes. That's sometimes what it's like to be a YouTuber. Sometimes your only viewer is your wife. Sometimes there's Superman. Here's some fellas playing. Is this backgammon up there? We've got a man thinking out his next move in that game right there, and then there's a nice menagerie of other shit happening. So let's open it up and see what's going on the inside here. Celebrity Corner. Atari Age interviews Pac-Man. In this exclusive interview, today's hottest video star reveals how sudden fame has changed his life. This is an interview with Pac-Man himself. Here's a photograph. It says, Pac-Man takes time off from his busy TV schedule to stroll downtown with one of his co-stars. What's up, Joe's World? This is Pac-Man, Pac. The name Pac-Man comes from the Japanese onomatopoeia that they have. They say that when people eat and they're smacking their lips, it sounds like a paku, 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 paku. That's where the Pac-Man comes from, if you didn't know that. Anyway, are you interested in this interview? I kind of am. Let's just start reading it and see if it's intriguing enough to continue. Atari Age says to Pac-Man, I'm sure lots of our younger readers would like to grow up to be video stars like yourself. Did you have any special training to prepare for the work you do? Pac-Man responds by saying, I had what you'd call a well-rounded, do you see that? Well-rounded education. I was involved in high school dramatics. I played the lead in Central High's production of Man of La Mancha. I did more acting in college, mostly theater in the round productions. There are going to be a lot of round round-based, round-themed humor. I didn't neglect my studies, though. In fact, I graduated sphere cum laude, Sphera. See again. There's going to be a lot of that going on. So if you'd like to check that out, get yourself a copy of Atari Age so that you can read the interview in full on your own time. I'm not going to go through the entire thing here. Here we've got a little, this is an interesting page. This is like first of all, it's a different stock of paper. You might be able to see that it's kind of textured. It's like a matte texture, slightly scratchy feeling blue paper, unlike the shiny, glossy paper that we have on the interior and exterior of the book. This is just this one little page where you got a note from the author, not the author, the editor. I mean, he might have authored some of the various features in this magazine, but he's saying, welcome to the new Atari Club and the new Atari Age magazine. The hot off the presses publication you are holding is Atari's own official magazine for home video game fans. It's more than something to read, it's going to make it more fun to own an Atari video computer system. I know it's not easy to make Atari more fun than it already is, but we're going to do it by, they're going to give you, here, I mean, these are the features, right? These are the key features that this magazine had to offer. They're going to give you the scoop on the latest game program cartridges as soon as they come out. They're going to tell you what games are on the way, weeks and even months before they're released. And this is not commonplace back then, you see. Obviously, we're dealing with pre-internet times. And your local news was not covering the upcoming Atari releases. So it was specialty publications that you had to go to get the scoops and the heads up. If you weren't a retailer or an arcade owner, you weren't going to hear about all the new games coming out. It was not commonplace. So these are new, exciting features and reasons to subscribe to Atari Age magazine. They're going to teach you the tips and tactics you need for higher scoring play, direct from the Atari experts who created the games, bringing you the inside story of Atari and Atari game players across the country and around the world. We're going to be doing all that and lots more in Atari Age magazine. And when somebody else is using your Atari game system, we're including articles, games, and puzzles to keep you going. We also have some surprises in store for you. For starters, how about a contest with hundreds of dollars worth of Atari game program cartridges as prizes? You'll find the details in this issue, and that's another thing. Most people back in the day didn't have a library of 50, 100, 200, 300 various cartridges that they'd collected. If you had, if you were fortunate enough to get a game system, whether you're talking about the Atari or moving forward ahead to the NES era or the Super Nintendo through the 90s, it was not commonplace to have a huge library of games. You got the system, you probably got a game or two with it when you got it as a gift for Christmas, for your birthday, and then maybe you'd get a game or two every year. And then you're probably renting games on the weekends if your parents took you to the video store and shit like that. But we didn't have a huge library at our houses. Most of us didn't. We'd swap games. We'd trade back and forth. That's how we came to play all the various titles that we played. And we still probably only played a small handful of them throughout our childhoods, most of us. Now, of course, you download all of them in one little fucking swoop. But you couldn't do that back in the day. So winning hundreds of dollars worth of Atari game program cartridges, that was a big deal. That's a big contest. This is the very first issue of Atari Age as a full-color bi-monthly magazine. It's also the beginning of a new age for the Atari Club. And some details about that. And the sign off. We're not going to do the entire thing, but that's interesting. That's a nice little. It's a nice touch to have the editor drop by, say hello, and do so in his own way. In this kind of differently, what would you say here? It's a differently finished type of paper to separate it from the rest of the magazine. It's like, this is all business as usual. Everything you see here, this is the magazine itself, of course, right? Then the editor drops by, makes a special appearance with his own special paper, cuts a little bit off the edge, so it's like it's a shorter page, and just makes his presence felt in a very interesting and profound way right off the bat. And then he signs in green. Right here we've got our contents, table of contents. Talking about the Atari International from Abu Dhabi to Venezuela. The world plays Atari games. Got news of a World Asteroids Champion crowned. Puerto Rico being an Atari territory. Space Invaders taking over South Africa. Look at that little guy. Atari news for May and June of 1982. Atari gains exclusive home rights to adapt Century Electronics games. Agreement includes Phoenix, Vanguard, and other arcade hits, which of course was a big deal. This is how the Atari VCS racked up much of its library by securing the rights to various arcade games, and then, you don't want to even call them a port back then. It's like they basically had to build the game from the ground up and just say, okay, all right, here's what the game looks like, plays like, here's what it does in the arcade. We want to make something approximating that on the Atari VCS, on the 2600. And then they'd have to kind of start from scratch and just try to build a game that matched the arcade game that inspired it as closely as possible. Oftentimes, the Atari 2600 versions were not, well, I don't want to say oftentimes. Really, they were never exactly what you would play in the arcades, just due to the limited technology of the Atari 2600. Just couldn't do all the things that the arcade machines could do. So they had to approximate it best they could. And people still had fun with those games, because not everyone went to the arcade. And even if they did, still kind of neat to have the ability to play even kind of a scaled down version of your favorite arcade games at home. Atari computer camps open in summer of '82. That's kind of neat. I always wanted to go to space camp. That was a big deal in the 90s. I've been sent away for the pack, the space camp pack. And they would send you a VHS tape and all the informational materials, a big packet, probably some stickers and other little goodies thrown in there. I never went, but I really looked into it. I really wanted to go. I had one friend who went, had a really good time, and I was jealous. But I'd never heard of an Atari computer camp until opening this magazine, going through it. We've got a new advanced home game system. Jesse always wanted to go to space camp. Yeah, they made it look so cool. I don't know if you ever saw the promo video that you could send away for the promo VHS tape. That's probably on YouTube somewhere, I would imagine. Probably not very hard to find now. But they did. They made it look awesome. New advanced home game system unveiled. Sets new standards for realistic game action and detailed graphics. There will be a new addition to the Atari family of electronic products this fall, the Atari 5200 Advanced Video Entertainment System. So look at them right here. I mean, this is big breaking news in the world of video games. If you had your Atari Age subscription, you open it up, you saw that, you'd be like, oh my God, holy shit, look at that. Sneak peeks, Evil Auto, Lights Camera Game Reset. Feeling adventurous? Atari is creating a whole new concept in electronic gameplay. Fans of fantasy/adventure games should feel right at home with the new Adventure series. Adventure. Just watched a film you might have heard of called Ready Player One that featured adventure in a big way. The adventure game for the Atari 2600, very integral to the plot of Ready Player One. I never saw it when it came out. Finally got around to it. I picked it up on the Blu-ray 4K. Watched that the other night. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thought it was fantastic. Clubhouse store to offer Atari items by mail and phone. Talking about their Atari shop. Coin video games, full color cosmic action, and new 3D game. Space Duel. We've got the Maze Craze here. Have you played Maze Craze today? If you haven't played this cops and robbers chase game, you're missing out on lots of fast-moving fun. I actually just tried this game out recently, and I don't know, it wasn't my favorite. I guess, it's all right. Not my favorite game. I mean, that's it. Maze Craze. You either get chased or you chase the player. Yeah. And look at this. If you wanted to order Maze Craze and any other Atari cartridge direct from the club, you could just call this number. The old hotline era. New action games. Defender. Yar's Revenge. So this is like a proto pre-order right here. You order now for a May release. Because this is what? This came out May and June. So this probably was out in like April, I would imagine. That's usually how these magazines work, It comes out the month before what's listed on the cover usually. So you would have seen these two in here, and of course, Yar's Revenge. I would have been excited about that back in the day, because the Yar's games, I think, are some of the best on the 2600. Defender, not too bad. Not my favorite though, but still kind of cool. You get a little glimpse, a sign of things to come. Taking orders on games that had not come out yet. Difference now, of course, is that oftentimes you get that pre-order in there, and then the game releases, and you find out it's not quite finished, not quite ready yet. You got to wait for that first big patch to drop. Sometimes the game's not completely ironed out until a year after release. No good. Got a feature on Haunted House, which some people consider to be the very first survival horror game in the history of history, in the history of all time. If you've never played it, you basically, do they have any, there's screenshots of it. You're just like a set of eyeballs, and you scoot about in a haunted house, from dark, gloomy room to dark, gloomy room, and you try to find your way through and avoid ghosts and traps and all sorts of stuff. Hello, Mr. Jorfus. How are you doing tonight? They released a new version of Haunted House. I believe it's called Haunted Houses. I played it on this channel. It came with the Atari 50 anniversary celebration. Nice big set of Atari games with a cool retrospective documentary thrown in. A really neat timeline that they take you through from the beginning of Atari all the way up to current times. Lots of great interviews. It's a fantastic, fantastic package they put together for that. But the original Haunted House game is in that package, and so is the new version they created. And that was pretty fun. I had a good time with that game. Jorfa said, what happened here? 25 minutes of stream, and there's nobody in here in the chat except Jess. Yeah. I don't know if, it could be that notifications didn't go out, or it could be that no one felt like dropping by. That could be. But that's okay. Here I am, flipping through this anyhows. Now this is neat. I don't know where Carrot is. No sign of Turd McGillicuddy this evening. Don't know where Y-Hunt is. Haven't seen Ghoulie. Fire Gamer. I don't know. It's been a lonely stream, except for Jess. She's been hanging out. But I said, what an impressive display. I said, sometimes this happens. Sometimes you're a YouTuber and the only person who shows up is your wife. Which I appreciate. At least I have her support. And Joe, well, he was here for like a second. I don't know if he's still here. He said a few hellos at like the very beginning, and then haven't heard from him or anyone else since. So I don't even know if he hung around. He might have done the old pop in for a second. Sometimes you see a stream go live and you stop by, you say hello, and then you move on. But right here we've got the Clubhouse store. Let's see what kind of shirts are they wearing. We've got an Asteroids shirt on the young lady, and the guy is wearing a Missile Command t-shirt. And probably if anyone has these shirts today, they would fetch a high price on. You ever see these? What do you call these secondhand shops on the internet, where people find vintage shit, and then it gets. I mean, a shirt like this, you wouldn't be surprised to see it go for about $500. Now, when I was in high school, you'd drive down to your local Goodwill, and that's where you'd find shit like this for 50 cents. Good luck finding anything good at Goodwill anymore. I mean, that's a cutthroat game that gets played now by the people who run these secondhand stores. They're in there. They're taking the shit, the good shit. It's gone before you know it. If you ever find anything cool at Goodwill anymore, you're a lucky son of a bitch. Let me tell you that. These program cases. Now this is something. Here's something. Program case back in the old cat. I've got a couple of these in my office right now because I just picked up a nice Atari 2600 just about a month ago. And the guy that I bought it from at the local Traders World flea market threw in 2 of these program cases full of games, and the Atari had the box with it and all the cables and everything. It was a really good deal. But I have two of these in my possession right now. I've become kind of an Atari shill as of late. Mr. Jorfus's joke of the night. He says, "How much does it cost to watch Harry Potter play his favorite sport?" A Quidditch. Ha ha! That's a good one. I like that. Cute little joke right there. We've got an Atari Age poster featuring the cover of this magazine right there. You can see that. So you could have picked up the front cover here in poster form to make it so we can see this and it's not blurry. Why does it want to be so blurry? Can't you focus? There, $3.95. How much were these shirts back in the day? $6.95 a piece for the Asteroids or the Missile Command. The game cases, $9.95. The modular cartridge library. We're building one of these with the Atari Lego set. It's not this big. I think it only houses like 4 games, I think. The one that you build with the Atari Lego set. But modular cartridge library, $14.95. And there's the number to call if you wanted to buy some games. And here we have an order form that's still fully intact. Hello, turd. Atari Age indeed. We're just flipping through this magazine, seeing what it has to offer here. This is issue number 1. But this is really neat. Let me just show one more time how the magazine itself, I got all the issues in one lot. They were not necessarily collector, what would you say, collector quality. But I don't really care. That's not why I bought them. I wanted to have them to flip through, to read, to enjoy. But even though they're dinged up, even though they look like they have been loved and they were read and enjoyed by the previous owner or owners, it's neat to me that we still have this intact letter from the editor, as well as the order form that's not been filled out, not been scribbled on, nothing's been torn out. It even still, you can see the kind of line of the tongue activated adhesive here that if I wanted to try to send this in today, I could probably lick this and close it up. Would it still work? I don't know. Would I die like Susan on Seinfeld? Maybe. So I'm not going to do that. But if I wanted to try, I could. Fully intact. We could send off for... Look, these are the pre-orders. These are some of your first pre-orders that you ever could have done in video game history right here. Defender and Yar's Revenge. Again, this magazine probably hit people's mailboxes in April of '82. Defender was coming out in June. Yar's was coming out in May. So if you wanted to get an early order in, you could have sent this off the day that your magazine came to you and then just forgot about it. And then several months later, Defender, Yar's Revenge shows up at your house before they're even available in stores probably. Probably gave people ordering from the magazine first priority. So there you go. That's a little bit of video game history. Well, of course, you could have added Maze Craze or Pac-Man and gotten either of those quickly. But interesting prices. $37.95, $31.95, $26.95, $37.95. Not the typical $59, $49, $39, $29 $9.99 that we see on games today. If you wanted, what is this? Oh, shipping and handling, no charge on the cartridges, but if you wanted other items and accessories, it would be $1.50 shipping and handling per item. Hello, Fire Gamer. Everyone's showing up now. It was lonely here for a while, but oh, and here's your contest entry form. There's a contest they're running. What is this? See contest on reverse side of this page. You can win the Atari Club contest. Our first prize winner will choose any 12 Atari game program cartridges. 10 second prize winners will each receive their choice of any 4 Atari game program cartridges. And 50 third prize winners receive a copy of the Winner's Book of Video Games, a new guide to conquering home and coin video games published by Warner Books. Details on page 14. So what is this? This is the Atari Scavenger Hunt. Win valuable prizes. Club contest. A special contest open only to Atari Club members. What'd you have to do here? Let's read about it. You never know what interesting odds and ends you'll find in an Atari game, like submarines and tarantulas and anti-ballistic missiles and even mutant houseflies. To enter this issue's contest, we're sending you on a scavenger hunt through the wild and wonderful world of Atari games. We've chosen a dozen objects found in games in Atari's current cartridge library. In step 1 of the hunt, you'll search for these 12 hidden items. In step 2, you'll use your step 1 answers to uncover the letters in a hidden message. Then in step 3, you'll decode the message to discover the name of one of Atari's terrific new games. Find that name, and you've completed the scavenger hunt. So, step 1, find each of the objects listed below. Write in the full cartridge name. What? Find each of the objects listed below. Find clues in Atari Age. Write in the full cartridge names below. Step 1 of the hunt, you'll search for these 12 hidden items. In step 2, you'll use your step 1 answers to uncover the letters in a hidden message. I'm having trouble understanding what they find. If I wanted to complete step 1 right now, what would I do? Find each of the objects listed below. Write in the full cartridge names below. We have to find balloons. What? Does this not make sense to anyone else? Or am I just an idiot right now? We've chosen a dozen objects found in games. Oh, okay. So we have to find the game that has balloons in it. And then we write the name of the game right here. Write the full cartridge name below. Okay, so we find a game on the Atari 2600 that features balloons. And then we write it right here. And then, in step 2, from each of the step 1 answers, take the letter indicated below and write it in. The 5th letter, the 2nd. Okay, I see what they want you to do now. All right. Unscramble the 12 letters you found in step 2 to form the name of a recently released Atari game program cartridge. Okay. All right. Well, okay. All right, Fire Gamer. If you decide to come back, then we'll see you. And if not, then hope to see you next time. Mr. Jorfa said balloon trip, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to get all these. But that would be That would be interesting to try to solve with more time. Perhaps I could, but I'm not. Honestly, I've never, like growing up, I mentioned this before. I've never been a huge Atari fan. It's like a new craze for me that I've really gotten into over the past several months. But I'm not like an Atari historian when it comes to the games. I'm reading several books on the history of Atari, and I feel like I know the sort of beginning story pretty well at this point, and I know a lot of the names that I had never heard of several months ago until I started taking this new adventure, and learning to program for the Atari 2600 and really diving into it. I've, like I said, I've become a big kind of Atari fanboy very quickly. And, it was like one generation before my time, really, because I was born in 85, and that was like when the NES hit. So my first game system was the NES. Those are the first games that I really played. One of my grandparents had an Intellivision that I would play sometimes when I went to their house, but it was more of a novelty for me. I thought it looked cool, and I thought the game cases looked cool for the Intellivision, but like as far as games I was playing regularly and games I would go to the video store and rent games for, that was the NES, 100%. So that's my first. That's where it started for me, was the NES. Just kind of missed out on the Atari 2600 and the 5200 and so on. But I'm gaining a very profound and deep appreciation for this system as I go back and learn its history and its importance. I mean, we all know Atari is important. We all know that that's really like the genesis, no pun intended, of home video gaming. Now, there were consoles that came out before the Atari 2600, the Magnavox Odyssey, and the Fairchild, but those were not as ubiquitous and numerous as Atari went on to be. I mean, it became such a thing that people they used the word Atari for talking about any home video game system at all. So if someone had a Fairchild or someone had a Magnavox Odyssey, chances are that they didn't even call it by that name at a certain point, because people they called video game machines Ataris. You want to come over and play Atari? And you might have like I said, you might have an Odyssey or something like that, but it's like Kleenex. You don't necessarily have to have Kleenex brand tissues, but oftentimes people say, hey, you have any Kleenex? Oh yeah, over there. But it's not Kleenex brand, it's the Kroger brand. They're nasal tissues, but everyone calls them Kleenex because that's how powerful the branding is. So on the back page here, Jorfa said the most important one is the Magnavox Odyssey. Well, I mean, that's debatable. That's debatable. That's the most important. Because see, Nolan Bushnell already had the idea to like bring these machines into people's homes. So it's not like, I don't know that if the Odyssey was never invented, if Atari wouldn't have done it eventually too. And the Odyssey, they had the sort of tennis game that would go on to inspire Pong in a way, but it didn't keep track of the score. It was a much more rudimentary version of Pong, if you can imagine that. But people just take these kinds of things for granted, that when you're playing a competitive game on a game system that, oh yeah, well of course one person scores a point, it's going to show up on the TV, and that is not the way that Magnavox, their tennis game didn't work that way. And a lot of their games had overlays that you would put on your television screen. Like they didn't do color games, but they had these kind of color overlays that you could actually place on your TV physically, like a sheet of transparency, you know, with colored sections that would line up with the game and make certain things appear to be certain colors. So yeah, and when I'm not talking to or not trying to talk shit about the Odyssey, I'm just saying that the Odyssey was around for years before the Atari 2600, or the VCS as it was originally called. And no one else really stepped up to improve upon that in a very significant way. And they definitely didn't do it to the degree that Atari did with the VCS when it came out. I mean, it was a true game changer, and I don't know that if the Atari 2600 had not come out, I don't know that the home video game market would have become what it's become today. Maybe it would have, but you could make a case that it it would not have. But who knows? That's all conjecture, of course. So Game Grams, what is this? Dear Atari, my brother was playing Adventure and he was in the Black Castle's Grey Dungeon. He took the bridge and went into a small part which is surrounded by walls. When he was inside, he picked up a dot. Please tell me what this dot is and what it can do. Now, I just mentioned the game Adventure a couple pages back there. That's what he's talking about. This dot that was Kathleen Gallagher in Novato, California. This dot is, again, it's part of this Easter egg. You might consider the very first Easter egg ever put in any video game ever. This Easter egg, one of the most important plot points in Ready Player One. Fantastic film. Have not read the book yet, but I would like to after seeing the movie twice now within the past week. But here's what Atari Age has to say back to Kathleen Gallagher. Atari Age writes back and says, your brother has found the first step in revealing a secret message locked deep within the Adventure cartridge by the programmer who designed it. Most people only find the dot by taking the blue bridge and laying it across some walls in the gray dungeon until it appears. But you've already completed that step. Now for the second step, move the secret dot into the secret panel room. How do you get there? If you come out of the yellow castle down to the main path and go right, keep going to the right until you crash into a thin black wall. You've actually crashed into the secret panel that lets you into the secret room. Moving the secret dot into this room won't open the secret panel, but you're getting closer. Leave the secret dot there and go on to the next step. Go grab any two more objects and bring them into the secret panel room where the secret dot is. Did the secret panel start blinking? Then you are ready for the final step. Take a deep breath and hold it. Good magic. Then pass through the secret panel very carefully, and you've done it. Unlock the secret of adventure. We congratulate you, and so does sneaky programmer Warren Robinette. And the reason they called him a sneaky programmer is because Warren Robinette, in that secret room, wrote a message for the player if you were to find this Easter egg. And the message was created by Warren Robinette. That was the message that would appear in that room, written out, spelled out. Because back in the day, the game creators were not credited for their work. So Warren Robinette, you wouldn't find that name anywhere on the packaging when you purchased Adventure. It was tough for the programmers to get their names out there, to get any credit at all. And of course, Atari is raking in millions and millions of dollars off these games. The creators got paid like a flat rate. I think some of them might have had some royalty deals worked out, but it's not like they were getting mainstream exposure. Their names were not back in the news. And that was a big deal. Why? Just why, says Mr. Jorfus. Again, it's because Atari did not want to give credit to the individuals making the games. They wanted it to be like this, they wanted all the focus to be on the Atari name, not the people making the games. They didn't want any name of a creator to become bigger than the company itself. And so Warren Robinette did this, and it was like it was a big deal because programmers just didn't get that kind of credit. And he went on to create, or to co-create, to become one of the founders of Activision, which was the first third-party video game development company ever. And they had to fight for the right to do that too, because Atari tried to block them. They didn't want other people outside of the company creating games for the system, and they ended up being able to do so. And so pretty significant stuff there surrounding that little Easter egg. Here's our cartridge checklist, all the games you could have ordered, and if you wanted to send a letter in, they gave you the address there, so you could write your own letter and maybe get featured in a future edition of Atari Age magazine. I'm just interested, what were the, see what some of the accessory prices here were. AC adapter, $9.95. Driving controllers, $21.95. Joystick, $10.95. Keyboard controller, $21. Paddle, $21. Okay. And that's it. That's issue number 1. Volume 1, number 1, from May and June of 1982, the Atari Age magazine. A fun little relic past. You just don't get stuff like this really anymore. This feels kind of cozy and quaint. Just a nice little thing to send out to people who are super invested in your brand, the stuff that you're selling, things you're creating. Something just nice about having a physical product in your hand from a company, creative team, whatever that you support. There's something about being able to hold something in your hand and do this kind of deal right here that just is not, it's not captured by anything digital. Hello, Michaela Burnett. Thank you for joining us tonight. Unfortunately, you've jumped in just about the end here. We've gone through this very first issue of Atari Age magazine. Again, here's the front cover. On the back, they gave you a nice little word search, a screen scramble, as they call it. Interview with Pac-Man. We'll quickly go through here one more time. Interview with Pac-Man. We got a little letter from the publisher, the editor. Atari International News, Atari regular news, telling you what's going on, what games are coming out soon. Talking about the Atari Summer Camp, the unveiling of the Atari 5200. Advertisement for Maze Craze, advertisements for new action games. Like I said, some of the first pre-orders in video game history right here for regular consumers. Again, you normally just had to go to, say, a Sears electronics department and see which games they had happened to order. That would have been up to the store manager at whichever location you went to. So you'd hope that you got a store manager who was in the know, or else the person in the know in the electronics department would have a good game selection ready for you. But if you had Atari Age magazine, you could order whichever games you wanted to, and they would even, in some cases, allow you to pre-order games that weren't released yet, which we take for granted now. But back then, that was quite something. Nice feature on the game Haunted House, one of the very first. Well, not one of, it's commonly accepted that this is the very first survival horror game ever. Clubhouse store featuring some cool items that you could have ordered in the order form. Again, one of the coolest things about this magazine here and the entire collection that I purchased is that though it's a little dinged up, though most of the magazines are dinged up and they're not perfect, they're not collector quality, as they say, they're quality enough for this collector right here, because I like to be able to flip through to enjoy the magazine for what it is, and the magazines are fully intact. So I would rather have fully intact magazines with pages like this that had not been torn out. I would be more bummed out if the magazine in all other aspects was just like pristine, but they had taken this order form out, or even this part of it. It's just cool to have this whole thing here. That's what I'm concerned with, is preserving the integrity of the original product. And we had our little scavenger hunt back here, and then a letter to the magazine and your cartridge checklist. And Bob's your uncle. So there it is. It's just kind of fun to go through it, and hope you've enjoyed this look at Atari Age magazine. Maybe we'll come back and take a look at issue number 2 sometime. Okay? So that's about all I got for right now. If you haven't done so, please sub to the channel, bong the gong, hit the notifications bell for notifications, set it to all so that you maybe get notified when I go live, when I post a new video in the future. If YouTube decides to tell you, they don't always do that, but if they do, make sure you're subbed. Appreciate you. Comment below, like this video, follow me on Twitter @SuperDivorce, on Instagram @SuperDivorceBand, and I also play music from time to time, and you can check out some of my tunes at Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. Just look up Super Divorce and you'll find me there, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. Until next time, everyone, take real good care, keep kicking ass, love you lots. Lord willing, I'll be back very soon with another video for you to watch. Bye-bye.